Hey beautiful, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, hi, my name is Alexis Jayda and welcome. Notification shout out goes to Guadalupe. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Te quiero mucho. If you want to be part of the notification squad, all you have to do is just be subscribed, like the video, turn on your notifications, and leave a comment. And when I go live, and you could possibly be the next notification shout out. So you guys, I'm in California right now. I did not forget to do part 2. It's just been extremely busy. I became a godmama and it's just been so freaking awesome. So I mentioned on my vlog channel that I got asked to be a godmother and it was just awesome. So we came out to California and now we are staying a little bit later just to catch up with family and just spend time with family and just to have like a mini vacation with the babies. So I brought the camera and I was like, I'm going to do part 2. I'm going to do part 2. Things started happening and then I finally today have time to sit down and record and talk to you guys. So sit on back. Let me know what you guys are eating, what you're snacking on, what you eating. I said that already. If you're doing a makeup look, tag me in it. I would love to share and see what you got. And I'm just so excited, you guys. I feel like a little kid right now. I'm just very happy, very grateful, very thankful, and I just feel so good. I really do. So I just want to thank you guys all for all your love and support and you guys understanding and todo. It means a lot to me. Let's get into part 2. So this is part 2 to my previous video. I will link it down below. My nanny series. I have a nanny series on here, Storytime nanny series of the time that I was a nanny and all the drama and everything unfolding. A lot of you guys are asking about how I let the toxic ex. If you guys want to see that video, I do have it. It's like an old video, but I know a lot of you guys want more details, so I'm going to be going in order like how everything went down. So I don't feel like it's fair because I've asked you guys numerous times. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze on. I've asked you guys numerous times how you guys want me to tell it, and you guys have told me to like keep it in order. Keep it in order. So yeah, all right, let's just get started. I called my mom. My phone had died. So you know how if you turn your phone back on, sometimes you have like 5%, 2%. I had 5%. So I called my mom and let her know like the situation. I didn't tell her too much, but she was just mad because it's late at night. So she wanted answers, and I'm like, look, mom, like, can you come get me or nah? Because I need to like go somewhere. And so my mom's like, yes, be ready, I'll be there soon. So Sam comes out and she's talking to me and she's like telling me that, you know, she's like, you know what, I'm sorry, I know you look kind of annoyed. I didn't mean to annoy you with your girl. They're really vacuuming right now when I'm recording. So she's like, I didn't mean to annoy you with your homegirl. I'm sorry. If you want, I can go back over and I can apologize tomorrow. I just tell her like, no, it's not even worth it. Like, don't even bother Sam. Like, honestly, like, you just don't get it. Like, these are people that I don't want to, you know, have like a bad like anything with. So I kept telling her like, don't even worry about it. Sam was being like really persistent and was like, I'm going to do it. Like, I need to apologize because you're right. She's like, I just get ahead of myself, blah, 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 blah. So my phone's about to die. So I tell my mom, like, my phone's going to die. Just text me when you're here. And she says, cool. Felt like forever. I feel like sometimes when you're waiting on something, it takes forever. I hope you guys don't mind that. I'll try and talk loud. It felt like forever. Sam is still trying to like talk to me. Like, come on, Lex. Like, I'll go over there and I'll talk to them. And I'm like, no. So as I'm looking at my phone, because it had not died yet, Shadow is still texting and like going paragraphs of like how she's so upset with me, and she kept like, are you ignoring me, blah 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 blah. And I'm like telling her like, my phone is dying. So I text her like, my phone is dying. So I text her, and as I text her that, I see Skillet ask me like, what are you doing? Phone dies. And I'm like, ugh. Because if Skillet was around, I would have been like, let's go. I'd rather go with you than go with my mom and my stepdad. Some of you guys who are new don't know the situation with me and my stepdad, but I was at a very young age by him. So anytime he's like in the room or he was around, I was not having it. I didn't want to be around him. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to see him. Nada. Like, I know a few people were like, why is she acting stupid? Like, why didn't she just want to go with her stepdad? I wasn't acting stupid. I had a reason. Like, I didn't want to be around that man. So that's why I could not stand to be around him. I didn't want to be around him, period. I couldn't stand to hear him talk. I would always fight with him. I would always call him out of his name. Like, I was constantly, anytime we saw each other, fighting with him because I could not stand him. I didn't get to deal with what happened to me. I didn't go to therapy or anything like that when I was young. I didn't get the help that I needed. So I was very like upset. I wanted to fight. I didn't want to see his face. I wanted him to hurt how he had hurt me. I wanted to, you know, I didn't want to see him. Even hearing his tone or seeing like a facial expression, I was just like, the nerve you have to make anything at all. And you know what he did to me, it left, like, well, yeah, it scarred me, you know. And I hated the way he treated my mother. Like, he talked down to her like if she was stupid, and it just really upset me. And he took advantage of my mom when she was in her depressed state, and even before that. And so it really irritated me being in the same room, house, anything as that man. So that's why I was like, ugh, if Skillet was around, I'd rather have gone with her than have to deal with him and hearing anything and him telling my mom how to discipline me and any of that. Because it's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm still, like, the reason I don't want to like leave, like, he didn't want to leave the house. He didn't want to leave the house. Like, if he would have left and it would have just me, my mom, my brothers, I would have been chill. But he didn't want to leave. So it's like, you're the problem. If you leave, then of course I will be there. I don't feel comfortable. Like, I don't feel comfortable at all with you around. I don't want to hear you, smell you, see you, nada. Like, I don't want you here. Like, that, like, you are the problem. My mom doesn't have to discipline me or check me or anything. Like it's you. Like, you're the problem. Like, it's you, you know? So anyways, me and Sam are still talking, and she's getting kind of like annoyed with me that I'm not like, okay, you can talk to Shadow, because she's not seeing that. Like, she's used to the people who like she could like talk smack to and be like, okay, like, yeah, whatever, you know, get over it. Like, Shadow wasn't like that. Shadow, like, she felt some way and she wasn't gonna let it slide, you know? And someone left a comment like, oh, you mean like back in the day when you would talk and actually get, yes, like, that's how Shadow was and is. Like, she didn't take to being disrespected, and she wanted to be some, you know? So I'm still arguing with her, and I'm like, dude, just leave it. Like, it's fine. Like, just leave it. Like, oh, like, you're bugging. Like, just stop. And my mom pulls up in my stepdad's car and she calls me. I'm like, I gotta go, Sam. She's like, okay, you're gonna come over tomorrow, right? I'm like, yeah, I have to, because I still have to keep the house clean, all of that, you know? And so I leave with my mom. I don't really talk to my mom. My mom kind of asks me like what happened. I don't really want to talk to her. I'm just kind of like upset with everything, and I'm like, I just want to sleep, ma. And so we go to the house and everything is dead quiet, like dead quiet. I'm like, good, I won't have to hear him, see him, anything. Perfect. So we go in the back and I sleep in this extra room that they have that is supposedly his room that he stays in, but since I was coming over, he was in the other room with my siblings. I'm just giving you all details. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'm not gonna have to see him, anything. So I lay down in that room. My mom's still trying to talk to me, and she pretty much tells me that in the morning that she wants to talk to me about what happened and that she doesn't want me leaving or anything. And I'm like, okay, mom, like, I'm just gonna go to bed. I get comfy, I take a shower because I'm sweating, I stink, you know. I take a shower, I'm coming out of the shower, and I see my stepdad, and he just like looks at me and he just like shakes his head like all annoyed. I hate that. Like, I hate that feeling that where it's just like, oh, like if I like, ugh, like if I was like such a burden, you know. So I get hot and I'm like, oh dude, like my mom's out, she's snoring. So I go to the room, I close it, and I start texting Skillet because my phone's charging. So I tell her and stuff like, you know, the situation, what happened. She's telling me that they can come and get me. So I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I can go get you, F them, you don't gotta deal with all that. She's like, take tomorrow off and we can just chill, we can just hang out, chill, watch the movies, and just do dumb stuff. And I'm like, oh, you mean it? Like, you really mean it? And so she's like, yeah, like, come on. I'm like, well, I do have to go over for a couple hours to clean up, and you know, because like it's like a job, like I gotta clock in. She's like, yeah, like I could take you, leave you there for a little bit, and I could pick you right back up. She had like an older boyfriend, so I'm like, okay, cool, I'll be ready, let me know. So I start getting ready, and I swear my mom could smell me getting ready or something, because I can hear her like not snoring anymore. I'm like, and I can hear him talking. So when I would talk on the phone, it wasn't like really loud. I would talk underneath the pillow. If you ever talk underneath the pillow, you can't really hear a lot. It's like muffled. Try it. I would talk under the pillow, and then I started getting ready. I put a towel underneath the door so you wouldn't see the light turn on because I'm getting ready, because I'm like, I'm out. I'm a kid. You know, kids do stupid things. We rebel. We do a lot of dumb stuff. So I'm like, cool. I'd rather sleep at Skillets than sleep here. Even though everyone was already sleeping, I was being a little mocosa también, because I'm like, I don't want to be here, you know? And his look that he had gave me pissed me the hell off. So I'm like, F that. I don't want to be here at all. So Skillet tells me that she's like 30 minutes away. I'm like, okay, cool. So there was a computer in that room. So I put on some like light music so that when I do leave, he can't hear anything because he's awake. I'm like, I know that he's awake. He wants to freaking catch me doing something bad. He wants to complain to my mom like, I told you, blah, blah, blah. So I put on some like light music, just like some ambiance, some white noise, so that they would think that like, okay, she's just going to bed. So I hear him get up and go to the restroom, because when you hear the toilet, like the seat go up, like when a dude's in there, they usually put the seat up so that they don't pee everywhere, right? I hear that it's him, and I'm like, oh, this like, oh, like he pisses me off. So I'm over here having like a fight in my room by myself, like oh, I'm so mad right now. Like he's always on me, and he wasn't wrong. Like, yep, she's leaving. Like, she is getting ready to leave. But I just didn't want to be there. If I would have if me and Skillet would have been talking before my mom came and got me, I would have loved a Skillet. Like, it would have been that, because I just did not want to sleep in the house. I know some people are gonna be like, oh, so you're being a brat. No, I just did not want to sleep in the house with that person. So as time's passing, I am opening the window little by little so that when the time comes, it's not super noticeable and loud. So I'm doing it literally slow, because I don't want to piss off my mom and have her come in. Dang, those are like really intense, huh? I already did it. And I noticed that I did not hear the bed creak when he got on it. When you get on the bed, it usually makes a noise, especially this bed. Like, it was really noticeable when someone was on it, someone was off it. I'm like waiting, you know, waiting and waiting, nothing. So I just continue to do little by little, and I'm trying to hear, and I swear, like, when moments like that, you can hear everything. Like, I was hearing the water drip in the freaking kitchen. So everything was just super, like, just, you can hear todo. I'm like, you know what, who cares? If he sees me leave, who cares? At this point, out of all of this, I'm like, I don't care if he sees me leave. I don't care if he wants to, you know, get stupid with me and say something. I'm gonna leave regardless. Like, I'm leaving if they know, and I'm leaving if not. Like, I don't know why I'm over here stressing myself out and sweating. I just took a shower. Stress sweat is something serious, and I don't want that, because my stress sweat is crazy. Skillet texts me here. So I'm like, okay. It's about to go down. I get ready and I start going out. So my dumb butt was trying to like do the whole like put my foot over so you can't see and do like all kinds of like nah. He saw because as soon as I got in the car with Skillet and I was like, hey, all excited, my mom texts me, Jade, what the are you doing? And so I'm like, knew it. I knew it. And so I just tell her like, I'm leaving. I don't want to be there. Skillet would have texted me before. I wouldn't have went over. I can't. Sorry. And she's like, tell me to get back now, or pretty much you're gonna be held to pay. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going back. She's like, get back. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going back. I love you. I'll text you when I'm over there. I always checked in with my mom. Always. Even if I wasn't staying with her, I always checked in with my mom so that she would know where I was. And most importantly, like, my brothers would know where I was, because those are my babies. So I just told her like, nope, I'm not staying there. Like, I'm not going to stay there. So we stopped going back and forth, because she's like telling me like, get back in now. And I'm like, no. She's like, now. I'm like, nah, like, I'm not. She stops trying to convince me to go back, and I just tell her like, love you. I'm going to be going to Skillet's. I'll text you when I'm there. And she just says, okay, that she loves me. And I love you too, Mom. We're off. Skillet is kind of pissed off because I'm telling her like what happened with Shadow and the whole situation with Sam. And she's annoyed because she's like, yo, you should have just let her get her butt beat so that she can see that not everyone plays those games and not everyone's cool with being disrespected, because, you know, she knew the type that Sam was, you know, the type to get away with doing certain things, or people would just let her, you know. You couldn't get away with that. And so she was like, nah, you should have let her get her butt beat. I'm like, no, like it would have been awkward. I'm like, okay, I let her get her butt beat. I'm saying butt, it sounds so weird, but yeah, I know what I mean. You can stay and get your ass beat, and you can leave and get your ass beat. So I'm like, no, like I didn't want her to. That would have been awkward. I'm like, I do like her, dude. Like, and Skillet was like, nah, I don't like her. Like, she's always putting you in weird positions. Weird situations. She's very inconsiderate, and she was just, you know, spitting but nothing but facts. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, she really is. Like, especially the whole, you know, when we were camping, that was crazy. Like, I could not understand how she was just being such a pain. Like, she was literally putting me in these situations and she just like not care. And she was like telling me, like, exactly, like she just expects you just to be there and be cool with it, or have her back, and you do it for her. She's like, I'm tired of that. Like, I'm tired of like people thinking just because you got nothing to lose that you're gonna be the one front and center. And I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, that's true. You know, sometimes the truth hurts, and I feel like even now sometimes I have to give myself that pep talk, because I'm always willing to go above and beyond, but when I turn around, there's not that many people behind me like willing to do the same, you know what I mean? Or they do, but to a certain extent, because they're like, no, I can't, or they have some excuses. Or to me, like, yeah, like they have excuses, because even though I have a whole village, my kids, I always try and come through, you know. And if I can't, it's for like a good reason that I can't come through, you know. But if you would tell me like, hey, I need you here, or you reach out and be like, I need you to like do this for me, whatever, kids or not, I've always been to the one to be like, all right, bet, no problem. Like, I don't just say that like I'm there for you just to say it because it sounds cute. No, I mean it, because I understand how it is, you know. And I honestly don't feel like I get that a lot from people, you know. And it sucks, because it makes your guard go up, and it makes you hard, or it makes you come off like a bitch. But it's like, you have reason to be, because people say it, you know. I feel like some people do say like, oh, I'm always there for you, because it sounds cute, you know. But when you actually call them out on it, like, all right, like, where you at? Oh, it's because of this, or it's because of this. Like, I swear any other time, but it's just because of this. And it's just like, but this is the time. Like, don't give me my roses when I'm dead. I'm gonna be pissed as a ghost seeing who shows up to give me roses, because I'm gonna be like, make those wilt, because I'm gonna be scaring y'all on purpose too, just for shits and giggles. Anyway, so she was pretty much giving me this pep talk of like, nah, like, you need to stop. She's like, you really do need to stop, because it pisses me off that you're over here doing all this. She's like fighting with Shadow, and she's like, and you know who she goes with, like who she like would hang out with and stuff like that. Like, the way Shadow had this anger issue, if she wanted you, she was going to get you regardless. And I know that sounds stupid, because like we're like kids and stuff, but kids do a bunch of crazy stuff. And her mom and the people that they would associate themselves with, they didn't take that lightly. Like, they didn't think it was funny. It wasn't like, oh, this and that, because Sam was being very disrespectful. And so she was like pretty much telling me like, just to be careful who I move with and how I move, because I'm gonna end up burning bridges. For what? For her to be all cool, chilling, eating popcorn, and I'm over here stressing because I have to, like, me and Shadow go way back and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, nah, dude, like, you're right. And I was getting annoyed, but not because she wasn't like telling me the truth. I was getting annoyed because it is true. And I'm like, why do I do this? Like, why do I always love or support like hecka hard, and once I stop, I'm the bad person, you know what I mean? Because Sam was like texting me at this moment, like all pissed off at me, like, I can't believe you really left, and it makes me mad that you don't see that I'm sorry. And she was trying to make me feel bad. She was trying to flip it, you know. And I had to tell her, like, I'm with my friend right now and we're talking. That's why I'm not messaging you back. Like, I had to explain myself. And so I was just going through like so many emotions, because I felt like, oh my gosh, like, I wanted to be cool with Sam, but I wanted her to understand like this isn't okay. And then I have Skillet over here telling me like, nope, like, drop her, like, she's bad news, like, you're gonna end up like burning bridges because of her. And for what? I'm like, no, like, you're right, like, for what? Because she don't understand, and she's not gonna be here permanently. Like, she's gonna end up leaving and going with like her mom and stuff. You're right. Like, why I'm over here doing doing all this when she's not gonna be here? So we just started hanging out, chilling. I did not drink, okay? It wasn't like a thing for me where I'm like, yeah, let's get drunk. No, I was always scared because I didn't really know my limit, and I didn't want to test it. I was like, oh no. Like my mom had gotten me so traumatized, so I was like, no, like I'm not gonna do any of that. They're drinking and I'm just smoking a cigarette and we're just talking and pretty much just like venting about like what just happened. So Skillet could not let it go. Okay, they had like a couple of like wine coolers and she could not let it go because she was like, no, like how is that fair? Like she's over there in that big ass house and they're over here treating Alexis like a freaking dog and telling her like, okay, like lock the doors, like if I'm gonna do anything. She's like, you know, like that. It's just so messed up, and that I still want to be there. And I'm like, well, yeah, because like I need the money, dude. Like I don't just like get money just because I'm pretty, because she had dudes buying things for her because that's just how she, you know, she was a sugar baby but wasn't giving any sugar. I know, like I didn't want that. Like I was always scared, like what if something goes wrong, what if something bad happens? And thank God, don't do that, you guys. You're young, it's not safe. It's not. Just because it works out for some people does not mean you were those some people. You could be young, but doesn't mean you got to be dumb. But anyways, so she had some friends there and she had this guy friend there, and he was like, no, like I agree, like you don't understand. So I guess he was like, you know, kind of going through similar situations as me, and he was like telling her like, you don't understand how it is having to pretty much pick your battles. And so she was upset and she's like, no, don't agree with her trying to make it better. She's wrong. And he's like, no, you're wrong. Like you should just be a friend and just be understanding. Don't make her feel bad, because she was kind of like not punking on me, but she was so upset that I wasn't like, go get her, you know, like go fight her, whatever. Like I'm not gonna just cut her off. So they're just starting to get like a little get together. People are just coming over, hanging out, and Skillet is kind of like drunk and she's like telling me like, hey, like my bad if I'm going a little bit too hard. It's just because I care. I'm like, dude, I know you care, but just chill out. Like I got it. Like I got it. Shadow wants to fight me or whatever, then I got it. Like it's no biggie. She goes, you know Shadow's not gonna fight you. You guys got history. She's like, but don't be fighting this girl's battles, and don't be taking her over to your friend's house, because you know how I took her to the last friend's house and she was over there being stupid and she kissed the ex. So she was like telling me that like to stop bringing her around. She's like, stop bringing her around. Like why are you bringing her around for what? She's just over here out here embarrassing you and you just look like a dumbass. And so I just tell her like, you know what, all right, thanks. And so I just get up because I'm getting mad, and I'm like, I get you giving me a pep talk, but I don't like to be told that I'm being a dumbass. Like I can only be nice and let you talk and give me like a stern talking to before I'm like, yo, fuck you, and get mad. The party's still getting kind of like, more people are coming and they're just hanging out, vibing, and then in walks Shadow. Shadow walks in and she looks over, and we just like, it was just like, what the hell? Like what are the odds of you just walking in and me and you just make eye contact? So we make eye contact like that. The door's right here. There's a couch right here, a couch right here, and there's like a island right here, okay? And I'm sitting on the island and I look over and she's walking in, she's looking at me. Skillet is on the couch with her dudes, and then there's like girls over here. Shadow walks in with Ursula, and Ursula is like, oh, yo, don't you know this bitch? And it's pointing at me. I'm mad because I'm like, how are you just gonna walk in and then like call me a bitch? Like we're not cool like that. Like I hate when, if we're not cool like that, or if we don't have that vibe, and if I don't already like you and you want to be cute and call me a bitch, it's not cute. I don't find it anyway. Like I don't find it like ha ha ha, nothing. So I'm like, who you calling a bitch? And so I get off the stool because like Ursula was itching since Shadow's house, and so I'm like, who you calling a bitch? And so I get up and Ursula walks towards me like, you know, like a little snake slithering her way to me, and so we're in each other's face, and I'm like, who you calling a bitch? And Skillet gets up, because Skillet, that's my home Skillet, and she wants to like, you know, like what's going on? So she gets up and she asks her like, yeah, why you call her that? And so Ursula's like, I can call whoever whatever I want. She's like, I didn't ask you that, stupid. I said, why did you call her that? We're starting to get kind of like both rowdy with her. Shadow comes right behind Ursula and kind of just squeezes on her shoulders and just tells her like, relax, Like, we're just here to have a good time, relax. And I tell Shadow, like, either you check her or I'm gonna check her, because she's over here getting too comfortable, and I know me and you have beef and me and you are upset, but that does not mean that she gets a pass. Shadow tells me like, oh, so you couldn't text me back, but you're over here at Skillet's. Yeah, like, I don't gotta check in with you. Even though she was pissed, she's not my mom. She's not, I don't get a dad. She's not anything to me for me to like have to check in. Just because I'm staying with her for those 2 weeks does not mean that like I have to be like right there, like, you're dumb. So I explained that to her, like, you're not my mom, you're not anybody for me that I have to check in. Like, you're letting me stay with you and that's cool, but I'm not gonna be out here kissing ass también. And she's like, no, I'm just asking, like, it's just kind of messed up, you know, like me and you were having a conversation and you just stopped messaging me. I'm like, okay. And so she's like trying to get me to understand, like, it's rude. And I'm like, okay, like, and it's rude that I told Skillet to come get me, and I'm like talking to Skillet, like, I'm not gonna be on my phone. I'm like, and you just want to fight, like, you just want to fight Sam. And she was like, yeah, she was all talking all kinds of smack and she was leaving. I was like, no, she wasn't. I was there right with her and I was telling her something. She's like, nah, she was talking all kinds of smack. Ursula heard her. And I'm like, okay, what did you hear? Because that's a lie, because it's not true. Like, she wasn't talking smack. If anything, I was the one telling her to shut up, and she just wasn't letting it go. I was just like, dude, like, this is so but I get it, because I've been in positions where it's like you're so hyped and you're so mad, like you don't want to let something go because it's just like you don't like being disrespected, you know. And that's what Sam was doing, and Sam just had that attitude of like me cree mucho and just didn't care, you know. And so I was like telling her, like, I get it, like I already talked to her and like it's done, it's dealt with. She's like, it's not dealt with because she didn't tell me nothing. I'm like, oh, what, you want a sorry? So I started getting attitude with Shadow because I'm getting pissed, because I'm like, what do you want? That's annoying. Like, what do you want? You want a sorry? You want her to kiss ass? Like, I don't get it. And then Ursula's like, yep, call her up right now and have her apologize. And so I look at Ursula, I'm like, dude, like, shut up. No one's talking to you. Why are you even here? If anything, you're making the situation worse. Like, shut up. I'm like, why do you always like problems? I'm like, you're not ever the one to be the first to jump in, nothing. Like, you're all bark and no bite. And she goes, really? And she has like a drink and she freaking chucks it at me. And I get soaked. Like, this, I think she was planning to throw it all along because she had it filled to like the top, and so when she chucked it, like, it spilled out. It was everywhere, and everyone in the room goes, oh, you know how everybody is when they hype everybody up, you know. They're itching for some drama, they're itching for some fights. And so I jump at her because she was itching for something. So we go at it, like really go at it, and I am like screaming at her because I'm like pissed, you know. I'm mad, I have built up anger, and we are just going and going and going. And what made me mad is when Ursula was on the floor and I was on top, I felt like someone put their pata in my butt cheeks and go and like lift me up, you know. And so when that happened, I heard Skillet say and so I looked behind and it was Shadow. And so I'm pissed. I turn around and this is Ursula's hair. Okay, I'm standing up and I have Ursula's hair right here, and I look at Shadow and I'm like, really? And Ursula's like, let go of my hair, because I have her hair. I'm like, really? And so the more I say really, I go up. I'm like, really? Skillet walks towards me and Skillet has a drink, and I'm like, really? And Shadow's not saying anything, and she's like, what? Like, you know, with attitude. And so I just grab the drink and I just pour it all over Ursula, and I just chuck her. Like, I just chuck her like if I had all kinds of games, just whoosh. And so I'm pissed, and so I'm like in Shadow's face now. I'm like, that's what we're doing, like that's what we're for real gonna do, like we're really gonna be petty like that? And Shadow's like, I didn't do nothing, like I just moved you out of the way because you guys were getting close to me. I was like, So Skillet is getting like in the middle of us, because Skillet, she knows Shadow and she knows how she moves and how she is, and if she would tell these minions, like, they would get me. And so I'm pissed because me and Ursula just got into it. Ursula freaking bit me, and I'm pissed, I'm livid, I'm mad, and I'm like telling her, like, so like what's good, like what, like we can handle it right now. Skillet's in the middle of us, and me and Shadow are just going at it, like kind of just like what, like just saying like little like nonsense things, like pretty much we're just like jibber jabbing, whatever. Ursula finally gets up and she goes to the back and she's in the restroom. She's huffing and puffing, she's freaking mad. I'm mad too. Like, she pulled my hair, I pulled her hair. Like, it was a petty fight, and it wasn't even how I wanted it to go. I'm soaked, she's soaked, and we're both just pissed off. And Shadow's just sitting there como se, like if she's all chingona, you know what I mean, looking like Debo, just like all kinds of like just like pissed off. I'm just mad about the whole situation because like we're supposed to be cool, and I feel like you should maybe have those moments where you tell certain friends like, hey, this person's off limits, and that just be that, and that's it. Like, Sam didn't really look intimidating. Like, she just was like a little chihuahua. She was all bark and no bite. And so I didn't understand why Shadow like wanted her. Like, I didn't get it. And then when Ursula said like, I don't know why she's off limits, it kind of clicked that she probably thought like me and Sam probably had something, and so she was probably like, what the heck. So Skillet was kind of talking to her and was like pretty much telling her like, they're just friends, like there's nothing there. And I was like, even if we were friends, like what about it? And so I was telling her like I don't understand, like I could be friends with whoever I want. And Shadow was like, I didn't say you couldn't. So we were kind of just like, you know, being like mouthy back and forth to each other and just like fighting. And then she wants to just be like, I just thought you were different. And I was like, what do you mean different? Like, what the heck? Like, what am I doing that is like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And then Skillet just looks at me and just kind of just, I swear, me and that girl could talk with our eyes, because she just looked at me and I was just like I didn't know how to like tell Shadow like I don't go that way. Like, there's nothing wrong with going that way. Like, I seen you as my friend, like, and nothing more. Ursula finally comes out of the restroom. It feels like we have been going at it like forever. Ursula wants to tell her like, I'm leaving, I'm going. Shadow is like telling her like, babe, just calm down. When she called her babe, I was like, oh, okay, like that's probably like what it is. I go to the back because like I'm not gonna deal with any of this. I go to the back by myself and I just start crying because I'm just so stressed out. I hate how things are going. I always like have those moments where you kind of just like zone out and just think about like everything, and you're like, oh my god, like if it's gonna get better, I just want to fast forward to then. Because when I was a kid, I swear I cannot remember every single like little thing when I was like chiquita chiquita, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I remember one time me going down the slide and me being like, I can't wait until I'm 12, I can't wait until I'm 12, and then boom, I was just 12, and I'm like what are all like how like, I know we remember certain things when we were like super young, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I was like, I just want to fast forward. Like, I just want to fast forward. I want it to be like the butterfly effect. I just want to go forward, because I was just so miserable. Like, I'm just so unhappy. I'm fighting with my friends. I'm dealing with this crazy ass family, the Peaches, dealing with the crazy ex. Like, it was just so much, and I was just so exhausted. So I'm like freaking crying. I'm like hyperventilating pretty much, and then I smell like smoke, like a cigarette being burnt up. It's someone that I used to know in school, and so he's looking over at me and he's like, you good? Like, because I look probably crazy, like crying, you know. He's like, you good? And I'm like, yeah. Like, it's just like, I'm just like stressed out. And he's like asking me if I want a cigarette. I'm like, yeah. And so I'm smoking the cigarette. It's freaking cigarette's going in my eye. I'm like crying, my eyes burning, and I'm like, you know, like trying to be cool. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like explaining the situation again. I feel like this is like, I keep repeating the story again, and he's just like, dang, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I don't know why Shadow's like just like on me about it. And he's just like, isn't it obvious? And I'm like, no, like I just didn't understand like that's like how she see me, because like I didn't see her like that. Like, there's no problem with me seeing her like that, or her seeing me like that. No problem at all. Like, I'm not against it. Like, you fall in love with who you fall in love with, you know? And so I was explaining it to him, and he was like, you gotta tell her that. I'm like, I don't know how to tell her that. Like, I think she's gonna get like offended, or I'm like, I don't even know, because like I've always been like really friendly with my friends, or like kisses and stuff, and like, oh, like hugs and stuff like that. And like me and Skillet would even sometimes be like, oh, that's my girlfriend. Like, when people were getting too like close to us, and be like, you know what I mean? So I was just like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, you know, that would make sense, like why she don't really vibe with Skillet, because me and Skillet were like this. And so I'm like, it would make sense, you know? Shadow finally comes out, and she like pretty much just looks at the guy, and he's just like, she looks at, like, she was so intimidating, y'all. Like, I don't know how to tell you. Like, she could give you a look and you'd be like, you know, and she was so tall, so it kind of was like, you know, it helped with her advantage. So she looks at him, she gives him the ugly look, and then he just like, he's bye. And I'm like, bye. So me and Shadow start talking. She's like, hey, look, like I just want to apologize, like things got out of hand. Ursula didn't have to get crazy with you like that. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, you know what pisses me off? That you probably told her to. And she's like, no, I didn't. She's like, you know, like everything, the situation. She's like, and I'm mad because like how Sam acted, and I'm mad that you didn't check her like right there in front of me. And I was like, nah, like that's not some like weird shit. Like, I don't know why you want me to be like, pa, right in her face. Like, that's just not. She's like, you would do it before. But it was like, the situations were different. I feel like Shadow didn't understand, like the situations were different. Like, not every situation is the same. There's some times where like things would get crazy, and like that person was acting stupid, or that person did something and it was just completely different. And so I was trying to explain that to her, but she's so freaking hard-headed, and I'm like, dude, like it's not the same, you know? She's a Taurus, by the way. And so I'm like, it's not the same. And so I was telling her, like, when did you and Ursula start dating? And then because I had heard her call her babe, you know? I was like, when did you and Ursula start dating? Just to kind of like change the subject. And then she was like, oh yeah, how you feel about that? And I was like, I'm good. Like, I don't, like the way she said it was like, if I was gonna be jealous of something. And I was like, no, like I'm happy for you. Like, if that's, you know, that's who you want to be with, and like there's so many other girls that you could have been with, but that's who you want. That's who you like. She was like, oh, you jealous? I was like, nah, dude, like I'm happy for you. She was like, oh yeah, thanks. And so she was like kind of trying to apologize, but we're trying to kind of just like break the ice, because I'm like, I know it's going to like it's gonna go bad, you know? It's getting like really late, and she's like telling me like, you're gonna go back with us? And I was like, no, I'm gonna stay here with Skillet. I told Skillet I was gonna help her out with something, which was a lie. I didn't say I was gonna help her out with anything, but I just didn't want to go back with Shadow, especially because how me and Ursula just got into it, and I didn't want Ursula to get crazy with me again. And not because like I was intimidated or I was scared, I didn't want to deal with it. And Ursula was very, very like, the way she would do things I didn't like. Like I had seen her fight before, and she would like pick up rock. Nothing was off limits, and like I didn't like that, you know, like nothing was off limits. Like there has to be some sort of, or like jumping people, like I'm not about that. So I was like, no, I'm gonna stay with Skillet. I gotta help Skillet. She's like, all right. And so she leaves, her and Skillet like shake up, whatever, cool. I go to Skillet, and Skillet's like, dude, that was freaking crazy. I'm like, I know, like I didn't even, like what the heck. And so we're talking about like what happened. I get a text from Sam, and she's like telling me that like, hey, I can't sleep, it's too quiet, like can you come back? Skillet was like, you see, like she could be doing something completely different, but she came and she's like bugging you, and I'm like, dude, it's not the same. So me and Skillet start going at it, and I'm like, dude, like I'm exhausted, like I'm so exhausted, I don't want to fight. I'm like, I want to message her back, like I don't want to fight, like it's whatever. So I'm asking her like, where can I go sleep at? She's like, you're gonna sleep with me, and we're gonna go back here. And I'm like, okay, cool, like are you gonna go bed right now, or like when are you gonna go to sleep? So then she's not gonna go to sleep for a couple, like, you know, for a while. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to the back, and I just freaking knock out, and I'm so tired, you guys. I don't even remember like sleeping there. You know how sometimes you gotta like fool yourself into sleeping? I just knocked out. I was so tired. I wake up the next day, everyone is freaking dead asleep. There's freaking beer spilled, there's throw up. People were like, it got crazy. Damn, I slept through that? That's crazy. So I'm looking at my phone, and my mom had blown me up. She's like, I need to talk to you, like we need to talk. And I'm like, fine. I tell my mom where I'm at. I'm like, come pick me up here. I give Skillet a hug. I'm like, bye dude, like I'm out, I'm leaving. She's all freaking like, huh, yeah, whatever, hung over. So me and my mom, we go out to eat. My brothers are there, and I'm just like, I don't even want to talk about anything that happened. My mom said that there's some scratches on me, that like I had a bruise on my arm, and she's like asking what's going on. And I can just imagine what my mom was like probably going through. She's probably thinking like, oh my god, my freaking daughter is like doing all kinds of crazy stuff, you know. My mom was good at this point, you know, like what's my plan? And I'm like, I want you to like get us an apartment. I don't want to live there. She's like, Alexis, you can't be like that, like I'm like, no, like I don't want to. I'm like, can you just take me to Sam's, like I gotta start, because that was time for me to like clock in, you know. And so my mom, I just remember her crying, and I remember feeling so bad. I did not want to live in that house. And my mom, she was so depressed at that time that like she couldn't even work or like do much, because she was just so scared of like the world. And I was just, I couldn't understand that, and I didn't want to. Even as an adult, I still couldn't understand it really, because like I didn't want to be there living with that person, you know. And so I just remember my mom crying. I remember feeling so bad. I remember my little brothers looking at me and just being like when am I gonna come home, you know. And I was just telling them like soon, like I'll be home soon. And I just remember squeezing them, hugging them. I remember Martinez's face, and I just remember feeling like shit, because I felt so bad, but I did not want to live in that house, you know. And so I just remember like hugging them and kissing them. I still remember Martin's face and his hair. And Manuel, he was so little. And I just remember hugging them and telling my mom like, it's all up to you, like it's up to you, like when you want me home. And I remember just like trying to like leave angry, so like I didn't feel guilty, and be like, okay, fine, and then go back to like shithole, you know. And so I get off the car, and like I see Sam. She's already waiting for me outside, freaking all kinds of excited, and she's like, come on. She's like, I made us some snacks. So I get in there, and I'm like freaking bawling. I feel like I was doing nothing but crying that freaking week. And she's like asking me like, oh, like Alex, I'm so sorry, like I don't know why you're crying. Is it because of like the shadow thing? I'm like, no, like it's because of my brothers, like I miss my brothers, the situation and stuff. And she's like, they'll be good. And I'm like, nah dude, like I like my siblings. Like I like my siblings. Like when I hear other people like they talk about their siblings, they're like, oh yeah, she's a bitch, or he's annoying. Like I love my brothers. Like I mean, my sister and my other brother, like I love my siblings. Like I've always had like a really strong connection with them. We just know when we're off, or like when the other one's off, or like something's about to happen, or we just know, we just have like that connection, and it's just crazy. Like, and I'm very thankful that we have it. And so I was just explaining to her like we're different. We're eating the little snacks that she had for us. She had like tried to attempt to make like cupcakes, but like it was like some weird cupcake, like thin brownie cupcakes. I don't know, it was weird. Cake cups. I don't know what she was trying to do. She was like asking me like if we're gonna go anywhere. She's like, are we gonna hang out with your friends? And like I was just like, dude, like we're not going anywhere. Like I'm not gonna take you anywhere. I was talking to my friend Skillet the other day, and she made a really good point that like I keep bringing you around like my friends, and like you keep acting crazy and putting me in like a weird ass situations, and like I don't want it anymore. And she's like, oh my god, Alexis, please, like I'll act right. I'm like, nah dude, like it's so freaking weird. And so we're talking, and my phone's going off. It's like buzzing. And so I look at it, and it's Skillet, and she's like saying that they're gonna go to the like this aquatic center that we had, like a pool, and that we want want to come, that like all the homies are coming. And I'm like, and so I'm like, okay, maybe it'll be different because we're gonna be out with other people, like we can't act crazy, right? And so I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, you know what, fine, we'll go. You know, I'm telling you, these 2 weeks were freaking crazy. It was freaking hot around this time, like super hot, like you feel like humid hot, you know, Texas hot. We go and she's like all excited. She has like a little beach bag ready. She has a cute little hat. She has like sunscreen on her nose. She's like ready to go. And I have like my shorts on that I'm going with. I asked her if I can borrow like a swimsuit, but I had like a shirt on top. I was really like weird about showing like my body. Like I never really wanted to like be out there and like show, even though I wish I would have been more like comfortable with myself, because when I look back I'm like, oh my god, Alexis, why, you know? So we go and I see a bunch of people and I'm like, dang, that's a lot of people right there. It's the freaking group that we're all going with, right? And it's Shadow and Ursula, and Ursula is like just stuck on Shadow. And so I go, Sam reaches to grab my hand. I don't know why. I swear this girl knew. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe because she was scared or because she's like, I don't know. So she reaches and grabs my hand and she goes like this, and I didn't want to be rude and like move it, you know, because I have grabbed my friend's hands, you know, like I have done that. So I'm like, okay, this is like, you're just making it more weird, you know. It's not like if I was like scared of Shadow, but like I didn't want to like hurt her feelings, you know what I mean? So we're walking, she grabs my freaking hand, and then Shadow looks at me, smiles, like I was like, happy to see me, and she looks down and her face just changes, and I'm like, and I'm just like holding Sam's hand, and Sam's like, hi guys, and then right away she apologizes. You know, so I'm sorry, so sorry for the other day, like I usually don't act like that, like I'm so sorry, just because like I thought you guys were being mean to me, but like we're cool, we're good, or like we still gonna bitch about it and make it a problem. And I'm like, dude, like you were doing so good, but like what the mean? And so Shadow's like, nah, like we're good. And she's like, for sure, because like your face is saying different, so like we got a problem, like, let me know. And I'm like, dude, like she goes so good and so bad. I'm like, Sam, shut the up. And Sam's like, okay, like trying to be all cute with me, like all like, she was acting like so like, I don't know, like different. So we're all going in, and I have my money, right, from working with the beaches, and so I pay, and Sam's like, you're not gonna pay for me? And I'm like, dude, like you don't got money? Not because like I'm being cold or anything, but dude, like the money, I had to pinch money, okay? And she was like, no, I didn't bring anything. She's like, come on, pay for me. And so she was doing the whole like, come on, pay for me, like nudge me, and Shadow is just watching us, and I was like, dude, like what the. And so I'm like, all right, cool, like I'll pay for you. So I pay for her, and then Sam's like, oh, thanks, and then kisses me on the cheek, and I'm like, yo, she's like doing way too much, like she's really trying to get me like her out here. And then I see Skillet like jumps on my back, and Sam will not let go of my hand. So like, when someone jumps on your back, usually they go for like their legs or something, right? And so I'm like, oh, and so like holding on to her hand still, and I'm like trying to like do the whole like, okay, let go. And so look at Sam, and I'm like, you know, and so she lets go, and Skillet turns around, and I hug Skillet, and she don't even acknowledge Sam at all. She's like, oh, I'm so glad you're able to come. I was like, yeah, like I wanted to get out to like have fun, like whatever, like we're all gonna be here. She's like, yeah, cool. Doesn't even acknowledge Sam. Sam's like, hey, doesn't nada, like at all, which made it really weird. So we all start walking, and Sam's kind of just like staying behind. I'm like, come on, Sam. She's like, I'm coming, and I'm like, okay. So we go in to go get changed, like in the locker room, you know, like I don't know, get a little bit wet before we go out, put on our sunscreen, like you know how like a group goes somewhere, usually all go, right? And Shadow and Ursula, they go into like where you can change, but like they have the blinds, you know. And so Sam, being obnoxious and loud, she's like, are they like a thing, or like they're just like best friends that like kiss each other? Skillet, not even looking at her, she's like, I think they're like, you know, how you are when you're with your person, you know. And then Sam's like, what do you mean? Like anyone could be my person, like Alexis can be my person. I don't know why she had to say like I had to be her person. As soon as she says that, we hear the freaking curtains open, and it's Shadow, and Shadow's just looking at me, and I'm like, what's up? You know, just looking at me like up and down, and I'm like, okay. We all get ready. Shadow and Ursula stay behind, and Sam stays behind. She has to go to the restroom. So I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna go out there. And she was like, yeah, like I'll meet you out there. I'm like, okay. So we all go out there, besides Ursula, Shadow, and Sam. I should have known it was a bad idea. But I was just too into having fun, and I'm so tired of always playing the role of being a mom. Like I always feel like I'm always that person that has to make sure like you're good, you're not throwing up. Like I always have to be like the mom role. Even before I even became a mom, I always feel like I was the one to take care of everybody, or I had to be like the one to make sure everyone else was good. Like I always felt like I could never just like relax. Like I always feel like I was always the one to like, I know some of y'all don't know what I mean. Like I always felt like my fun was very limited. So whenever I do get to have fun, I try to have like as much fun as I possibly can, because who knows when I'm gonna have fun again, you know? So it's always very limited, or comes very like small. So me and Skillet are out, and we're dipping in. Skillet was like, you know, Shadow used to be like that with me at first and stuff, but you just gotta be like tough with her and like stern with her, like, hey, like no, like like, you know, like I like you as a friend. And I'm like, dude, like I don't know how to have that conversation with her. And I kind of had that conversation with her, but like I don't know how to be stern with her. I don't know how to be rude, because I never want to hurt anyone's feelings at all. And so she and I were just like, you know, just there, just chilling, and our feet are like dangling in the water, and her boyfriend just comes and just grabs her freaking legs. I don't know what the pendejo thought, but her head smacks on the side of the thing, and I'm like, so I'm dealing with her. She's like in the water. She's like, oh my god. I'm like, oh my god, are you okay? Are you okay? The freaking lifeguard is like, hey, no rough playing, no horse playing. Like they're screaming at us. The boyfriend's like checking her, making sure she's good, and I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh my god, like what if your brain is bleeding? Like freaking out because like it smacked hard. As we're going through all of that, one of the girls that they had brought extra was like, hey, is that your friend in there? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, they're fighting. I felt so bad. I freaking made sure that skillet was good. I pushed her up on her boyfriend and I ran, because I was like, they're fighting, like what the heck, like it's 2 against 1, like who else knows is in there, right? So I run in there, and as I'm running, the lifeguard is screaming, no running, and I'm like, okay, like walking off fast, and then they're screaming it. They screamed like 2-3 times with their whistle like blowing. So imagine running to your friend and they're freaking blowing the whistle. The lifeguard is like, hey, like screaming. The girls are screaming. I'm like, oh my god. So I get in there, and before I can even get in through the door, I can just hear a bunch of commotion. I can hear her screaming. I can hear fucking bitch and just like screaming. I can hear Sam screaming, and I can just hear, like it just sounds freaking nasty. I'm like, oh my god, they better not be jumping her. Like I'm gonna be pissed. So as soon as I go in there, what the f is that? What is that? Is that a balloon? There's like a weird thing in the sky. Okay, so as soon as I go in there, I can hear all the smacks. I can hear all the smacks. I can hear like the lockers being like pushed into and everything. So as soon as I walk in there, it's freaking Ursula, and she is freaking beating up Sam. Sam's getting some licks in. She's getting some licks in. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's 1-on-1. So I just sit back, and Sam looks at me like, help me, like jump in. So I can't jump in because I just can't, you know. That's just not how, it's not fair. So I'm sitting there, Shadow's sitting there, and Shadow's just watching, like with her arms folded, like chingon. I think she's cool. I'm like pissed off at Shadow at this point. I'm like, you know what, this is it. Like I told her I thought we were cool, like nah, this is it. Shadow looks at me and she's like, after this we'll be cool. And I'm like, nah, after this, like we're done. Like I'm never talking to you again. Like I told you. She's like, you told me for me not to hit her. She's like, but Ursula's down. I was like, same, whatever. Like knowing that you're all together, like she ride for you, so that's how it is. And she's like looking at me like for real, and she kept trying to talk to me, and I'm just like watching the fight go on. Sam's like beating up Ursula at this point, so I'm like, okay, she's good. Ursula's like, get her, because her hair is being freaking pulled, and Sam got rage in her, you know. Sam's been going through it. Like her mom, she's found out who her mom's was, Mr. Peach, all the drama. So I'm thinking like, girl, get her, like get her. She over here doing all kinds of stuff. Ursula is like trying to bite Sam, and I'm like screaming at Ursula, like, don't bite her. If you bite her, I'm gonna punch you in your face. And Shadow's like, you're not gonna do nothing. I'm like, bet. Like, cause I'm mad, cause I'm like, we're no longer friends anymore. Like this, we're done. And so Shadow's like talking to me like, you really mean that? Like we're really not gonna talk no more? Like where are you gonna stay? I'm like, don't worry about it. Like it doesn't matter where to stay. I can stay in the freaking park. I can stay in garages. Like I don't care. I'm not gonna stay with you. So I'm like looking this way, not even talking to her. And she's like, oh, for real? Like you're really gonna do that? We're really done? I'm like, yep, we're really done. The more we're talking, the more I'm just like turning my head, cause I'm like, I don't want. I'm just like, I don't want to see her hit me in the face. She could punch me from behind, but not in the face, because it would hurt so much, because she had a big mano, you know. And so they're still going. I can hear Ursula screaming at Sam, and Sam's like, are you done? Are you done? So she's all hyped up. She's thinking like, oh, she's on freaking cloud 9. She's all happy, and she freaking pushes Ursula. Ursula's nose is all bloody. She's looking at Shadow, and then she's like, that's what you wanted, babe? Like all mad, and she just runs to one of the restrooms, and Shadow doesn't even follow. And so Sam's just looking at Shadow, and she's like, are we good now? Like what's up? She's like, I asked you out there if we had a problem, you said no. And then Shadow's like, we didn't have a problem no more. We had a problem with my girl because you disrespected me and you disrespected my girl. It tries to go into a whole like mafia thing. It's like, dude, shut the hell up. Like shut the hell up. And so I'm just letting them, and I asked Sam, I'm like, hey, you good? And she's like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Anyone else got a problem? Yeah, I'm good. Like all like hyped up. And I'm like, Sam, shut the up, like let's go outside. And so Shadow's trying to talk to me, and she's like, hey, like I'm like, no, dude, like I don't want to talk to you. Like we're done. Like either we continue to have a problem and we fix it now since we're in here, or like that's it, like it's done, like you said. And she's like, I don't got a problem with you. I had a problem with her. I was like, no, you had a problem with her. It's like, she's like, oh, so she ride for you? I'm like, yeah, she's my friend. Telling her like, so we have a problem, or like we handle it here, or we go out there, we're good. Like you're not gonna ruin the rest of my day. And she just stays quiet, and her arms are just folded. She's like, nah, I'm good, like with attitude. I'm like, okay. And so Sam's still all hyped up, like, oh, whoa. She's like, so you guys good? Like, are you for sure good? Because I can go right now. I can go another round. And just keeps clapping her hand. And Shadow's like, dude, nah. Like not even because Shadow was intimidated, because I know this Shadow probably could have hurt Sam. It was just like, I don't want to hurt you, you know. She was just like, nah. And probably because like, hopefully too, she probably just like was like, okay, I hurt Lex, you know. Hopefully, let me just give that person the benefit of the doubt. So see, me and Sam walk out, and Sam freaking looks like she has like a busted lip and her eyes a little red, but she's hyped and she's like, yo, like I handled them. She's like, that's why I kind of wanted to stay behind to see if they're gonna do anything, and they did. I'm like, dude, you're freaking crazy. Like, why did you even do it? She's like, no, she got me from behind. She kept hitting my head and kept going forward, and then my head hit the locker. And so she's explaining to me, and we're kind of like laughing, getting all giggly, because I'm like, dude, like you're freaking crazy. And so I see Skillet, and she's like going like this, and her boyfriend's like checking on her, like, you know, kissing her head and stuff, and she's like looking at me, and I'm like, you know, like, you good? And she's like, good. And we had the best rest of the day. It was freaking awesome. I hung out with like Skillet a little bit, but she was kind of like, you know, she couldn't really play that much. But me and Sam just had freaking fun. Shadow kept dogging us here and there, but I'm like, dude, like stop. Like, you already had your girlfriend beat up, my friend, like stop. And Sam was just having a great time. We were having a great time. It was all fun and just like relaxing. So there's two pools. There's this pool right here, which was like for like the adults and kids, and this one was just like straight deep. So like big kids, you know, even though I couldn't swim, I was like holding onto the ledge and like kicking my feet, you know, being cute. And so me and Sam get out, and it's already getting late. We're freaking sunburned. I don't know why we didn't put on freaking more sunscreen, but we are freaking sunburned. She's hurting, I'm like, oh, I'm hurting, and we just feel so exhausted. Sam is talking to the Peaches, and she's like explaining the situation, like, hey, me and Alexis have been out and stuff. Can we both go to the house and can she stay the night? Like, I want to have a sleepover with her. She had to do lots of convincing, and I'm like, dude, that just sounds like, oh, like I hate being like a bother. Mr. Peach eventually gives in, and he's like, okay, cool, you guys can go back, fine, but only one night. And so Sam's like, okay. I go and check on Skillet. I'm like, hey, are you good? Like, I'm gonna be leaving. Like, did you want to go with me? Like, you know, inviting her to like my house. And she's like, no, like I'm just gonna go back. Like, I hit my head pretty hard. Like, she could not have that much fun because like her head was like hurting. Like, I'm telling you, when it smacked hard. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna leave. And she's like, no, like, yeah, like have fun, like, you know, be safe. I'm like, okay. So me and Sam leave, and we're walking back to the house. It's not that far from the house, but it's a good long walk. Like, I think about how much I walked when I was young, and I'm like, dang, no wonder why like my freaking like metabolism was probably like really, really fast, or like why I was like able to do certain things. Look at my baby.
Mother's Day.
Oh, you guys are so cute. Aww. Thank you. Oh, thank you guys. You guys surprised me. Oh, look, and the camera's on still. Thank you, baby. Oh, is that for me? Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Oh, you're welcome. The roses are beautiful. Look, guys. They're so pretty.
This part was mine. This part.
Mine's on the top. It was harder.
This is yours?
That's mine. Yeah.
Yeah, this was mine.
And this is Gio's? Oh, okay. Oh, that one's yours? Cheese.